Hi guys, we're going to do some pelvic neutral exercises. So to start, you're going to be on your back, feet hip width apart, knees bent, and upper body relaxed. Make sure that hip bones and pubic bone are level. So to test that, you can make a triangle with your pointer fingers and thumbs. Place it over the hip bones and pubic bone. If you take a peek, they should be level, parallel with the ceiling. If you feel that you're unstable in the pelvis and need to come into imprint, just slightly tilt the pelvis so low back is not jamming into the floor. There's just a slight tilt. Pubic bone is above the hips. And then we want to lift the pelvic floor and engage the lower abdominals to help create that stability in the pelvis. So wherever you feel comfortable, you're going to do your exercise from. We're going to start with leg slides. So inhale, you're going to slide your right foot out, trying to keep contact with the floor the whole time. Exhale, drag the heel back in. Again, I'm keeping contact with the floor at all times. Same thing on the other side. Inhale out, exhale in. It's tricky with the mat. Quite often your feet will catch, so just try your best. Really, what I should have done is be near the edge of the mat and then have my feet on the floor. Since I have socks and a wooden floor, they would slide nice easily. So we're going to just do one more on each side, being aware of pelvic neutral. Now, if I were to fully extend and it to cause me to lift through the ribs and lift the upper back, then I wouldn't go that far. Then I would just slightly extend just before that position and then come back in. And until you get stronger, then you would start to extend the leg. We're going to do hip openers, still keeping the hips nice and square. You're opening the knee out to the side. Use the inner thigh to pull it back to center. Good. Same thing on the other side. Keeping those hips nice and square. Opening through the hip. Exhale. Use that inner thigh to come back to center. You're going to do 3 more on each side. Really focusing on maintaining pelvic neutral. Keeping the hips nice and square. Pelvic floor is still lifted. Lower abdominals are still engaged to keep that stability in the pelvis. Last one. Then we're going to combine those 2 exercises and do hip release. So I'm going to start with the left leg first. I'm going to open through the hip, but only as far as I can keep those hip bones level. Slide the foot out, rotate, close, and then slide that foot back in. So I'm open, keeping those hips nice and square, extending the leg, and close. One more. And then I'm actually going to change direction. So I'm going to do a slight internal rotation. Slide the leg out, still keeping those hips nice and square. Drag the foot back in. Now, on the way in, sometimes it's a little bit harder to keep those hip bones square because it feels like you can open up in the hip more. So you have to be aware of how far you're opening that hip. One more. And same thing on the other side. So we're going to go 3 with opening the hip first. Slide the leg out. Close the leg and drag it back in. So inhale, slide the leg out, exhale, close, and drag it back in. Last one. And then again, we're going to change direction. So slight internal rotation, slide the leg out, exhale, drag that leg back in. Inhale, slight rotation. Exhale, drag that leg back in. And you might notice a little bit of a difference between the 2 hips depending on their tightness. Good. And then to finish, we're going to do some knee circles. So right foot's going to come up to tabletop and then slow little circles in the hip joint, making sure the hips stay nice and stable. This opposite leg that's on the floor isn't moving, it's staying stable as well. I'm watching the ribs, making sure that they're not popping, and I'm still breathing and staying relaxed in the upper body, opposite direction. Still, my pelvic floor is lifted, my lower abdominal is engaged, and I'm staying nice and square in the pelvis and nice and stable. Alright, last time on the opposite side. And just again, being aware of those hips. I like to quite often place my hands on my hip bone just so I can see whether they're, or feel whether they're wobbling or not. And then same thing in the opposite direction to finish. And slowly lower. Good. And then just bring the knees into the chest. Stretch out that low back. And you're all done.